I swear to you, this is the answer of all reparenting, which you have to do in depth. You have to get to the core wounds of what has happened. But just to give you guys this answer on the surface, what is it that I would have wanted from an ideal father figure? And then the second factor is, how would that allow me to show up in my life today? These two things I want to share with you without getting too deep, because I can't take you through a reparenting journey here. For those of you who aren't familiar, that's what we do in our GAUNTLET program, where we actually take people through the reparenting of this process. But these two things are meant to be your guiding beacons. What they're showing you is, one, what are the needs that I wish were met, which means also what are still some of the needs that are not met for me. Because if they were met, let's face it, we wouldn't be here in the session today. So it's a good recognition to see what are some of these needs that are still not met for myself. And then the second thing that you did for yourself is you said, if I had these needs met, how would I be able to show up for myself today? What would it make me today, right? That's what we're talking about here. The middle piece is, how can I learn to meet those needs for myself right now? Now, here's the thing. What that can do for you temporarily, because let's say you identify as the feminine, right? And you already are like, well, yes, I already am building a lot of masculine energy within myself. You're telling me to meet some of these needs that my father figure did not give me. That kind of looks like me becoming more masculine, right? It can look and sound like that, but that's not for you specifically. That's for your inner child. Your inner child still needs those characteristics, those traits, those needs to be met so that your inner child can allow their truest expression to come out. What this means, when I grew up, for example, my strongest wounds were with my mother. And so as a child, I grew up very masculine because I was like playing sports, whatever else, but I didn't have a healthy understanding of masculine energy. I didn't understand accountability enough, commitment, none of those things. So one thing I could do is I could just bite the bullet and say, what are all the masculine things I need to embody? I'm just going to like live in and do them. But reparenting was more important for me, where I had to look and say, as a little boy, what did I really need? I needed the love, the care, the protection, the affection of not the protection as much, the affection, the validation, the nurturing from my mother figure who just didn't give it to me. So for a period of time, I learned to actually give that to myself. And not necessarily to myself just as an adult. I would visualize myself as like a little boy and as a mother figure showing up for me and providing me that sense of care, that sense of nurturing, that sense of love and affection. As I did that, the inner child within me, think of it as a battery. The battery started to be recharged. And so how I could authentically show up was more of who I was designed to be. And so that masculine energy came out more. I started to attract healthier partners. I stopped trying to attract partners who represented the same wound that my mother, couldn't fulfill for me, and that the affection that I couldn't get from my mother. And instead, I attracted people who complemented how I showed up for myself. Now, let's say, for example, and I'll address this in both ways, and then we can do some quick Q&As. Let's say, for example, it comes around the issue of protection or safety, right? What would protecting yourself right now, whether you're the feminine or the masculine, look like? It may not need to be a physical protection where you have to build yourself up to be like big and dominant. It could mean to prevent yourself from making decisions which are not going to serve you or your inner child. What does that look like? That looks like stopping yourself when, for example, there may be a partner who's not good enough for you, but you want to choose them. It may be stopping yourself, closing your eyes, parenting yourself as a parent and asking yourself. So here's a really good fucking question that I want you to give yourself. If I had a beautiful father figure in a tough moment, what would he do for me? I want you to write this down for yourselves right now. If I had a beautiful father figure in this moment, let's just say in this moment, how would he show up for me? What would he do for me? This is an amazing fucking reparenting question that I'm just throwing at you. Like I said, this is something that we use in the Gauntlet to help people with their subconscious programming work through it continuously over the 8 weeks. But I'm just giving you this surface level stuff right now, and you'll have to like process it and, understand how you can use it. But this question is so helpful because when you find yourself in a moment of difficulty or challenge, and you have this father wound, and you ask yourself, if I had a healthy, safe, or I had a loving father figure, what would he do for me in this moment? If you were chasing an emotionally unavailable man, for example, your father figure would hold on to you and say, my love, you deserve better than this. You don't deserve to expend yourself and stretch yourself and run after this to prove yourself to this person. You are lovable and valuable just as you are. Let's say you're overworking. If you're overworking and you're trying so hard to prove yourself to your job or your community or something, what would a loving father figure do and show up for you? For me, my loving father figure would literally pick me up out of the place that I'm like trying to prove myself and working and straining and feeling like the heat of like everything going on. And he would put his big arms around me and he'd say, all that matters to me is you. You don't need to be this to get my love. You don't need to prove yourself to get my love. You don't need to be successful to get my love. All that matters to me is you just as you are. Let's say you need a moment of guidance or discipline. And that's another area where a strong father figure can show up, right? We talked about even when it comes to, let's say, fitness or health. And if we're making choices where, let's say, we know are not affecting our health in a positive or constructive manner, but we're having a hard time drawing a boundary with it, a good question is to say, what would my healthy, loving, or what would a beautiful father figure do for me right now? They would tell me, they would sit with me. They wouldn't shame me and say, this is bad for you, you fucking loser, don't do it. They would sit there and say, you deserve better than this. They'd sit there and say, this is not good for you, my son or my child or my daughter. This is not going to help you. This is not good for you. This is not like supporting you. Here's what we'll do together. Let's make a fun action plan together. And your father figure would sit with you almost and make an accountability plan for how you guys can go exercise together, go to the gym together, do your homework, whatever else that is, whatever it is that you needed. That is a really powerful question and a really powerful reparenting opportunity. People ask me how you can reparent yourself. Reparenting opportunities are as much as flowers on this planet. They're a fucking infinite amount. Every time you find yourself going through something that's critical or doubtful, or you have a lack of self-confidence or fear or lack of support, those are all opportunities you can reparent yourself with in terms of the masculine as the support, the security, the lack of judgment, the structure, the commitment, all of those things that you didn't get, or as the feminine, as the love, as the validation, as the nurturing, as the total acceptance of who you are, as the beauty, as the flow, as the restful, playful space of what you needed. And these simple reparenting tools can change how you show up in the present moment because they're fulfilling your inner child's battery. And so the way you have learned to show up, which may be more masculine or more feminine in order to survive, starts to break away because you don't need to live in that survival space anymore. You start to feel more fulfilled from within. So last piece I want to say on that. So let's say now you start protecting yourself a little more. Let's take as the feminine. You actually unconsciously start to create healthier and healthier standards for yourself, right from the foods you eat, the people you date, the places you go, etc. Just as if you had a father right by your side, preventing you from getting into things that are not as good for you. So then what happens next? You attract a partner who provides you that level of support, that level of structure, that level of like maybe financial support, any of those things that allow you then to not sit in survival mode anymore, but to bring out your femininity, to bring out the truth of who you really are, because you don't need to survive. But you can only attract those things when you're not desperate for those things. This is the law of the universe, that you will attract the vibration and energy that you give off. So for that time, just to let you guys know and to conclude this, when I reparented myself so strongly as like the loving mother figure, it felt as if in that time, I was being more feminine towards myself, not toward the external world, towards myself, because I was cooking special meals for myself. I was literally like, putting cream on my body and snuggling myself before bed as if my mother was like hugging me and putting me to bed. I would go for walks on myself and I would talk to myself as if my mother was taking me for walks and pointing out birds and trees and this and that. And I would do all of those things for myself, which unconsciously, which may have seemed like they were feminine for that time, that I was doing, again, not for other people. They were feminine that I was doing for myself, but they innately started to build a sense of masculinity. Then when I had that expectation of nurturing, that expectation of, and it's a healthy expectation, because let's move aside expectation, let's call it standard. When I had that standard, for the nurturing energy I needed, for someone to show up for me in this love and care mode and space, which I was now giving to myself, I would not settle for someone who's not capable of it. I would not settle for someone who's giving me morsels. I'm so used to giving myself such a high standard of it. And that's when I started to attract higher and higher quality partners who are capable of giving that to me. And then you start complementing each other in how you can provide. Are you hurting from shame, loneliness, toxic relationships? Do you want to break that pattern and create a beautiful, loving life for yourself? Well, my name is Yats, and I'm an inner work and relationship guru. And I have helped thousands of women and men from all around the world learn to become their best selves and have the lives that they truly want and desire. This channel was designed for you to be able to heal those old wounds, be able to become and elevate your best self, and to you to love your life really that you have right now. And I offer an 8-week program called the GAUNTLET, which takes you on this amazing journey of healing those wounds. And I also offer in-person live retreats all around the world where you can access that same level of healing and empowerment. I want you to do something for you today. I want you to watch some of these videos. And if these videos hit close to home, they resonate with you and they're giving you some inspiration, then I want you to subscribe and share it with somebody else who needs it. These videos aren't just for someone to consume. They're meant to inspire people to take action. And if you want to take action in your own life, jump in the comments, watch the videos, send me a DM at the Inner Yats on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video.